Hey, I'm here. I'm here.
All right, we can get started. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Lauren Weinstein. I teach U.S. history at WHSAD, and thank you again for being here. I'm really looking forward to this. And on behalf of Assistant Principal D'Amato and the WHSAD Humanities Department, again, just welcoming everyone to our third annual event with Project Witness. For the last 3 years, all of our students have engaged with various curriculum designed by Project Witness, and they've heard from Holocaust survivors. This year, we're fortunate to be joined by Mrs. Toby Levy. Before Mrs. Levy begins, we'd just like to thank Mrs. Ruth Lichtenstein, the founder and director of Project Witness, for not only welcoming us as a member school, but truly making sure we had all the resources we needed to make sure the students make the most of this experience and really learn a lot from the materials and the experience. We would also like to thank Ms. Karen Lerman, who worked directly with us, with the teachers, and took our feedback to develop certain portions of the curriculum, and we're still working with her to make it the best that it can be, and for her help in coordinating this event. And now it is my great pleasure to welcome Mrs. Toby Levy.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. And thank you for wanting to hear me and meet me. I'm grateful because I love young people. That's my future. Anyway, I have 45 minutes and I gotta get it all in. I was born the year Hitler came to power. It was I'm going to tell you the year because I can't take chances that you make a mistake. 1933. I was born in Poland. That time I was born, there was part of Poland. Today it's Ukraine. The part that you're seeing now that Russia's trying to occupy, Lvov. At the time I was born, it was called Lvov. Now it's called Lviv. It became Ukraine after the Second World War. In a small town, the name Chodorov. We were not a lot of Jews altogether with the vicinity, maybe 5,000, but it was a vibrant little town. It had a lumber yard, a sugar factory, and a train. My father was a soldier in the First World War in 1914. He was 18 years old. He was fighting under in the army of the Germans. He wore a German uniform. At that time, 1900s, that part of Poland was all Empire of Germany. Germany lost the war. Then it became divided parts, whatever. It took many years till it became a little better. 1933, when I was born, it was much better in Poland, in Chodorov. It was more work. My father was a merchant. He had his own store. We weren't rich, we weren't poor. We lived in my grandfather's, paternal grandfather's house. We had 2 rooms, we were 4 people. My father had the store down. We lived in the center of town, which is called the Rinnik. It's a square. That's where from villages come to trade twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So my father made a living that way. And my mom helped him on the busy days. So I had an older sister. She went to school. I did not go yet. So I was small. So when she was helping my father, she would take somebody to watch over me. Life by time was okay. I don't remember missing anything. I don't remember much of anti-Semitism. But in 1933, Hitler came to power. By us, it was still okay, but the German Jews started feeling what a Jew means. He let them know right away he came to power. 35, he let them know, go out if you can. I don't want you. Took away their jobs, took away their furniture, took everything away. In 1938, he really showed the German Jews what he means, serious, which was Kristallnacht. That's when the Jews realized where Germany's taken them. Many were able to get out. My part of Poland understood what's going on, not really as fast because we did not have the communication that we have today. It took days or weeks till we got to know what's happening. even if we did know, no way could my part of Poland get out any place. You needed a visa wherever you needed to go, and you needed money. Visa was the most important. And America stopped giving visas. There was no place to go except deeper into Russia. So things we understood, but didn't understand the depth of the seriousness. So we paid a price. They didn't read, the leadership did not add the dots, what's next in store for the Jews. So in 1939, Hitler made a pact with Russia and divided Europe. I was occupied under the Russian because I'm closer to the Russian border, where my husband, on the other hand, he was closer to the German border. He was occupied from the Germans from 39 on. When the Germans walked into his town, he was 13 years old. They took him, his two brothers, and his father into labor camps. I, on the other hand, had the Russians. My father, I'll talk a lot about my father. I mean, thanks to him, I am here able to tell you all that. Otherwise, I would have been wherever else, wherever all the children went. My father understood early on that nothing is going to be right for us. What did he do? He closed the store, hid his merchandise. So when the Russians came in, he was a simple Jew. They gave him a job. My sister kept going to school. So from 39, we were okay till 1941. 1941, Germany attacked the Russians, and the Russians started running deeper. No one put up a fight. The Poles didn't put up a fight. The Ukrainians didn't put, and definitely not the Russians. They got on the train and ran away deeper into Russia. We had a train in our town, had a lumber yard, a sugar factory, and a train station, which is a big deal in a small town. We tried to run, many tried to get on the train. It was impossible. Young single people, like I had two cousins, my father's two nephews, they were young men. They got on the train, got into all the way into Russia. My father, the four of us tried to get on. He couldn't. What did he do? He takes a horse and buggy and starts running deep into Russia. But the train went faster. The German army, nobody stopped him, so they didn't have to fight in any of the towns. So we realized that we cannot get on the train and we are far away from our hometown. My father says to my mom, I think it's not going to work for us. We better off going back to our hometown because everybody there knows us. He already was thinking, what? Everybody knows us. I'm going because he was born there. His father and his great grandfather. So 100 years, I would say. So what do? We come back to Chodorov and we unpack. Sure enough, 2 days later, the Germans walk in. Okay, the Germans walk in. This is where my life ended as we knew it. I said we had a rinnig, a square. So what did the Germans do? All the Jews come out. The Jews lived next to each other. I call it, they made their own ghetto because it was comfortable. You have your friends, you have your family, you have your business, you have your synagogue, your temple where you go to. We live and we kept next to each other. We understood we have to live a life not so loud, quiet, do your business if they let us live. That's the mentality I think the Jews had. So when the Germans came in, they asked all the Jews to come out. Most 99% lived next to each other. We came out in the center of town. We came out, my father's holding me, my sister in hand. All I could see was the German boots. They were so clean, so beautiful. And you know what? All my friends my age that survived remember these German boots because they were so imagining to see a soldier to wear. And the German, they didn't look tired because they didn't fight. So they started giving us order. Not just giving order, but screaming at us, ordering. From now on, you're no longer citizens. You have no longer rights. You in on and on and on details. You have to wear an armband, a white armband with that blue star in the center. You have to make it yourself. Curfew, and everybody goes to work. Whatever they send you to work, not where you go. And whatever is yours is ours. And then at the end, to demonize us completely, what I did, took one young man with a small little beard. They cut his beard, push him on his hands and feet. A German puts his foot on his back and says to us, "This is who you are now." To me, it looked like they're treating me like a roach. Put his foot on my back and tells me I have absolutely no rights. I don't know how long it took, but all I know, when we came upstairs to the apartment, my father turns to my mom and says, "This is not the Germans that we knew, and nobody's going to make it unless we have help from someplace." My father was lucky, got a job working in the lumber yard. Why lucky? Because not only Jews, slave labor worked there, the Ukrainians worked there, and the Poles, this was their job. My mom had to report every day to the Gestapo where she's going to work. I had an older sister. If I was 7 or 8 at the time, she was 12. So she was in charge of me. And my parents' order was, when they go to work, we don't go in the street, we stay in the house. Why did my father not let us out? Because I could go out in the street without the Jewish emblem on my arm, because I don't look Jewish and I spoke a perfect Polish. That was my mother tongue. But the Germans don't know that I'm Jewish because I don't look Jewish. But the Poles and the Ukrainians will point to the German, "She is Jewish and not wearing an armband." So either way, if I go with it, I'm in danger. If I go without it, I'm in danger. So my parents' order was, "You kids stay home till we come home from work." And we did. We obeyed orders. One thing I did, and not only I, but every child that I am in touch with, my friends, they looked at their parents and they understood something drastic changed, that we cannot ask from our parents anything. We just have to obey our orders. I looked at my father and realized the danger, his eyes, his fear, his mannerism. My father never, ever screamed or hit me, but he yelled at me, says, "You're going to do what I tell you. Finish. No questions asked." We did obey. My father went to work, and only once do I remember a horrible thing. My sister and I watching out, looking at outside, a little girl sitting on the stoop and crying. A German officer passes by. He's annoyed with her cries. He didn't look at her as a child or as a human. He looked at her as a roach. He picked her up in one hand, took a pistol in the other, and he shot her. And she fell. And my sister and I were looking at the window and watching it, and got very frightened. Went underneath the kitchen table, waiting till my parents get home. When they came home, we told them what happened. They didn't bother explaining. They just turned to my sister and said, "From now on, you don't look out the window. Sit underneath the table." We obeyed orders. One time I remember the Germans knocked on our door to let them in. We didn't let them in because my father said, "You stay under that table." So what did they do? Broke the door. My sister and I sitting underneath the table, frightened like hell, but they took whatever, they mashed up the house, went through took whatever they wanted, and they left. They left us alone. When my parents came home at night and saw just the two of us, they were grateful. Anyway, my father was lucky because he was well known in town by the Jews and non-the-Jews, and he was liked. So one time a Ukrainian guy comes over to my father's name was Moshe. He says to Moshe, "It's going to be a big aktia." Aktia means actually killing, murdering, taking you out, dehumanizing you, pushing you, screaming. Horrible, horrible. My father had enough time to make a hiding place. He did. He made a very good hiding place. And he was able to, he took only his sister into it, not everybody that lived in the house, because he just said he can't. Well, in Europe, every house has a cellar. The cellar has a big basement, a real cellar that you go down one flight, but you can't go into it from the inside. You got to go into it from the outside. So what did my father do? He made a new wall in the cellar. He divided it. To get into the house was from his sister's apartment. He cut out a hole. We were able to roll in. He made a platform. He built all that. Where did he get his stuff to build from? He worked in a lumber yard. So he would steal, build it. He had it ready. Only once was he caught, and they asked him, why do you need it? I don't know what answer he gave him. All I know, he never came home that evening from work. My mom looked for him, found him in the Gestapo, beaten up. I've never seen a man beaten up like he was, black and blue, beaten up. She brought him home. He knew if he stays more than 2 days at home and doesn't go to work, they'll pick him up, put him on the train, and he'll never come back. He pulled himself together, went back to work. Sure enough, the same Ukrainian man says to my father, it's going to be this weekend. My father was ready, comes home from work, it was Friday night, says to us, we're going into hiding today because tomorrow it's going to be the killings. We go into hiding. He takes us four, his sister with 3 children. One, she had 2 boys, older, but a little infant of a baby girl. She took a pillow to cover the face. My father had his father, my grandfather was still alive, living in the apartment. He says, I don't want to go with you. I'd rather die now. Sure enough, Saturday morning, we hear the Germans with their dogs aroused, screaming, get out, get out. The dogs are barking, yelling, cleaned out the house. Late in the afternoon, they come into my aunt's apartment when my grandfather's sitting by the table. They say to him, come. He says, no, not a problem. They shoot him. They don't see him as a human. My father heard when his father was killed. So we thought we finished because it got very quiet in the house. But very, very late in the evening, the big cellar door opens up. I was not the youngest one. All I did is say very quietly, just like that, My mom grabbed my hand, but they heard a noise. So they're starting to walk. My aunt puts the pillow on the infant, and the German's starting to walk down the stairs with the flashlight. We are not breathing. We know if they come down and they look, they can find a new wall or whatever. All of a sudden, a big cat jumps out, and the Germans started laughing. Oh, it's only a Katze. It's only a cat. And they turn around and walking out. We realized we made it, but we didn't get out right away because we didn't know how long what it's taking outside. It took us about 2 days we came out. Right after the first big action, there was very few left of us. So the Germans used language of deception. What do they say? They say the remaining Jews, they're going to take to Lvov, which now is Lviv. Lviv, beautiful big city, had a big Jewish ghetto, and take to the Lvov ghetto. It makes sense because there's so few left of us. But my father comes home and tells to my mother what he heard the news from the Germans. And he says to my mom, I don't think I'm going because I do not believe them. If you don't believe them, so what's your alternative? There was no help. There was no help from anywhere, nowhere. Up, down, left. Every time I talk about it, I shiver. Not a single soul came to say or do anything. Nothing. So we're on our own. So where are we going to go? My mom says to him. He said, you don't want to go to the ghetto? Where are we going to go? He says, I'm going to look for someone to hide us. So my mom still had her sister alive and 2 brothers. So she tells them what we're doing. So my mom's sister with 2 younger children, and she still had my grandmother was still alive. They said they're going to look together, and we're going to try to go together. They're both looking, my father and my aunt, and they find a woman. Her name is Stephanie Struck. She lives in Center Town. She says, I'll take you in. How many will you be? It was supposed to be 10, but only 9 of us make. So where do you go to hide? can't go into her house. She has 2 children, no husband. The husband was the conductor that was driving the train. So he's all the way in Russia because he drove the train to Russia. So where we're going to do, and so every house in Europe, even if it's in the center of town, there's a garden after the house. Then there's a nice size barn, not big, an old-fashioned barn, made from panels, nothing exciting. So my father says, I'll make a smaller wall in the barn. And he gave my father, when the Germans walked in, he hid his material, 3 sacks full of material. That's the only money we had. We had no money. He gave her 1 sack of material and said to her, go buy livestock. This will give you an excuse to bring food to the barn and to buy food. So she buys a pig and chickens. There on the left. The right is, what does he divide? A small 4 feet by 5 feet. Head to toe, 9 people. Square. For if one at night wanted to turn, all 9 of us had to turn. But the barn was small. He couldn't make the barn any smaller. So slowly, we went in hiding. Since it was curfew, so we couldn't go all together. The women and children went in hiding right away once he had the wall ready. She did not tell the children that. She had 2 children, a 19-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. So they know from nothing. She took us over in the barrel every day, another person. But the 2 men still went to work because they were afraid to show, they shouldn't pick up suspicion that why isn't he working? But the last minute, when the Germans started picking up the people to go on the train to take him to Lvov, I guess a person has instinct that it's something wrong. The people started running and they started shooting. My father and my uncle barely made it to the hiding place. 1 single uncle was supposed to come with us. He never made it. So they come. 2 weeks later, Stephanie comes in and tells us there wasn't a single Jew left in Kharkiv. Sit quiet. Of course we're sitting quiet. What can we do? It's pitch dark there. So we try we sit in this hiding place. During the day, we stretch our legs. 3 months into our hiding, 3 men are standing there in the middle of the barn, stretching themselves. The pig and chickens on the left, the rest of us on the right, looking in. All of a sudden, the big barn door opens up. Stephanie standing in the middle with the Ukrainian police right here. I'll never forget that sight. It's an image that will stay forever. Okay, inside is pitch dark. He opened the door. The sun is bright coming in. He got blinded from the sun. The pig and chicken start running towards the door. The door was open with Sunny. Stephanie's standing there frozen. She knows what she has. He did not know and he did not see it. He was blinded. She was our angel between him and us. I don't know. All I know, I'm the luckiest girl in the whole wide world. I'm here to tell the story. She was our angel. She watched us, that's for sure. I don't know how many minutes she's standing there. She finally closes the door and goes away. A couple of hours later, she comes back and says to us, I'm sorry, you have to leave. I'm scared. My kids don't know you, don't know about you. I can't keep you here. We're begging her and telling her he did not see us. She says, I'm sorry. So we have to leave. We have to leave. We can't force her. We can't force her to keep us. So where do we decide to go? We're going to go to the forest. There is a forest. We are in the center of town. We have to go the other half of town. Then there's a big open space open. Then you have to cross that open space. That's the dangerous part. And then there is a forest. You could make it. In fact, young people had 2 hiding places in the forest. One the Germans caught and one made it. They made it. So you could be there, but they were young. We were 9 people. We had my grandmother and 4 children. I had 2 cousins. It was a 4-year-old, 6-year-old. I was 8. My sister was 12. 4, 6, 8, and 12. The 4-year-old, behaved like never opened his mouth. So we're ready to go. We're getting dressed. Stephanie, she was sent. She's definitely our angel to save us. She realized she could not chase us. She realized that we'll never make it 9 people going to the forest. And how are we going to hide? How are we going to dig a hole? Where are we going to get food? You have to go steal at night and hide during the day. She knew it's not an easy job. She can't chase us. That's the point I'm trying to bring. Trying to bring her character to you. She could not chase us. As much as she was afraid, she couldn't chase us. She goes back to the Ukraine police and says to him, you know who I am? I'm so Mrs. So-and-so. You knew my husband the Russians took. You know my mother, my father, my sister. He says, yes. She says, why did you come? What were you looking for? He said, Mrs. Struck, you bought livestock. My job is to register it. She again and again, he gives her the same answer. She's walking out of his house and she realizes that he did not see. She's coming home. She can't chase us. She's coming home. She has a 19-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. She tells the 2 children who she has for the last 3 months and what happened in the afternoon, and that we're leaving tonight to go to the forest. The 16-year-old boy, his name was Tajik, turns to mom and says, you can't chase them. They will never make it. I will help you. Maybe together we can save them. She said, no. He said, yes. That's the story she told us. Finally, okay, all of a sudden, all I remember is we're standing ready to go, and my mom's putting my coat on, exactly what happened. The memory's clear what happened. The big barn door opens up, a little guy, skinny guy standing there. He says, my name is Tajik. I know what happened. You're not going anyplace. I'm going to make a better hiding place and we'll try. And that's what he did. We made 1 layer higher, with much more room. So what a barn is made from panels. What he did is 1 panel, he cut out inside more. So us 4 children, we should be able to see the world. That's where we stayed for 2 years. That's where I looked out and watched the world and asked my father questions. Why? What did you do wrong? Why can't I go out and play? He'd say to me, I don't have the answer for you now, but if we make it, I know, he used to say differently. He said, someone has to survive this war. No way are the Germans going to kill every Jew. There have to be survivors to tell the world. Maybe it's us. He had a list every day, the miracle that every single day was a miracle. Too bad that I didn't take everything that we had in that barn. There would be souvenirs for life for me, but we didn't. Food was tough. We were always very hungry, but we understood how can you feed 9 people. The only diet we had was bread, sometimes not enough of it, bread and potatoes. She tried. The next year in hiding, she took German officers to live in her house and said, what are you doing? They can come in and out because the barn is open. She said, I'm safer. I have more food. I'm doing it for me. So this Tajik sister had nothing to, he said to her, you stay away. Mom and I are going to do it. He watched that barn 24 hours. I'll give you 2 or 3 examples and I'll go on. We had 2 pails for waste. So he was in charge for taking the waste out. Food, mom was in charge to bring. My father knew exactly every single day he would tell us, today we made it. He had a calendar dated. He knew when the Jewish holiday, he knew to teach us. He taught us, the children, not to hate. He used to say, if you hate, you will never make it. I know somebody has to survive. Maybe it's us. And if we survive, we will have to know how to make it and not hate. He taught us what kindness is. He taught me the ABC and the Jewish ABC. He taught me the multiplication tables. He tried to keep us children interested. my grandma taught us to knit and crochet, tried to tell us stories what life is about. These stories are forever in my mind. So I'll give you two examples how Tajik was always there. Once my uncle wanted to know what time it is, he put the flashlight on. Of course, the Germans were right there. It's a barn. You see the lights. In 2 minutes, Tajik was with his flashlight. Oh, it's me. He was always there. Tajik had friends, young boys like him. They played ball, whatever they did. Once one of his friends took a stepladder, put it against the wall, and started climbing. Tajik got scared. If he puts his head against the wall, he would see us. And we got scared too, so we laid down flat. What did Tajik do? He grabs the stepladder underneath his feet and says to him, "What do you think? I'm hiding Jews? Come, I show you. The barn door is open." That was Tajik. He dared. Second year in hiding was much, much harder. But, you know, if there was hope, I will never forget the second year in hiding. Stephanie gives us 3 knocks. That means she wants to talk to us. And she says to us, "I see a light at the end of the tunnel. The Russians stopped the Germans in St. Petersburg, and they're starting to push them back." There was hope. It reminded me when we had the COVID, the vaccine, before the vaccine came out, how everybody was scared. Everybody sat home. And at that particular time, I had an interview with the Times and wrote a small little article, what the virus meant to me, what it did to me. It was in the New York Times op-ed. And I gave an example what it means, a light at the end of the tunnel. Once we heard there's a vaccine coming. And also what I was happy, I was sad. And again, I said to myself, I lost my youth and I'm losing my old age. I can't go out. I can't do anything. But yet I had hope. And the next thing what I felt, it's not only Jews who have to hide. The whole world has to hide from that vaccine. So it gave me courage and gave me to understand that that shall pass. And sure enough, it did. Thank God so far we are doing well. Going back to mine. So 1 minute, please. I talk a lot. Oh boy, you can't stop me. So second year in hiding, she took Germans into her house, and the barn door was open. They always walked in and out. Not only once, I remember when she brought us up the food, we had a certain style, 1, 2, 3 we would pick. But on the top, when we came on top, we would have to close it, pull down. So if you picked up your head, you see only hay. You wouldn't see the box that's open. Sure, the Germans walk in. We had all the food up, but we couldn't close the hole on top. And the Germans picked their head up, they would have seen it. Let me put it this way. Every single day, every single minute was a miracle. A miracle that I'm alive, a miracle that all of us survived. And the end of the war, like 1944, I was liberated in 44 by the Russians. And so when we knew they're coming closer and closer, it was very bad bombing. So she said to us, "I'm taking my children, I'm going outside of the city." So every house around her was bombed. They lost the roof. So my father says, "Oh my God, she is gone. The Germans in her house. If we lose our roof, the Germans will shoot us." So again, where do we find a hiding place? So the barn has earth. And so what do we dig the earth with? We had 2 pails. With our hands, we dug a hole out, and the earth went to the second layer where we were, dug out a hole for all 9 of us to sit. Sure enough, we heard the Germans' cars moving, and then a couple of hours later, we heard Ukrainian. Russian and Ukrainian language is very similar. We know somehow, we knew it's the Russians. My father was the first one to call out. It was 1944. I think it was May or June. My father was the first one to call out. Once he saw it was the Russians, he helped us out. You know, when we came out, no one could walk. We had no muscles to walk, even to stand. 2 years, not just food, but not to do anything. The Russians looked at us and said, don't eat. If you eat, you'll die. Again, we were saved. You know, we looked at each other. We didn't cry. We didn't laugh. We just looked, is it possible? And the Russians said, yes, you're free. But you can't stay now. You have to go someplace to nurture you because you're going to die if you eat this. So we split. We went to 2 different homes. My father knocked at someone that he knew all his life. And she says, oh my God, you're alive. But she didn't kill us, which is a miracle again, because many got killed like that. She took us in. She gave us a bath. After I didn't have a bath for 2 years. Then she gave us a clean sheet, and she nourished us to 1 spoon every day, whatever. I don't know how long it took. We were very anxious to get out to see who else survived. When we came out, 31 people survived in Ghetto, all in hiding by non-Jews. Nobody came back from any place. We were liberated in 44. We stayed in Russia till 45. When the war ended in 45, just like my father predicted, it's going to be survivors looking for other survivors in the ashes. Just like you see now in Ukraine, they're looking for survivors. That's how they look for Jewish survivors. I don't know who it was, but it was organizations taking us over borders and borders. So 1945, I left my hometown, going towards American Zone, which was a story by itself to tell. I wound up in Austria, in Ebersberg, in an army DP camp, displaced persons camp, 45. 1945 to 1949, it was the best years of my life. We had all of us each other from all over Europe. We came, children, and whoever else from all over Europe. And you know how survivors meet each other? The password is always, how'd you make it? Where were you? Each tells its story and life goes on. We had school right away. We had food from Jewish agencies from the United States, food, clothing. Couldn't go to work. It was doing DP camps in Austria, didn't let us anybody go to work. We lived in 1 room. We were 5 people in 1 room. 4 of us and my grandma. And my grandma was but you know what? The kitchen was left and the bathroom right, but it was the best time. We had freedom. I learned to talk, to laugh, to cry. I learned to live. I went to school right away. We had school. Whoever, there wasn't organized school. Who can teach? Let's teach the children. Adults, let's teach them a trade. Right away, teaching a trade for the future. Right away, learning what the kids can do. From 45 to 49. Then we had an Israel in 48. And then we got visas. You could go all over the world. The doors were open for any immigrant. The last minute, my parents decided to go to the United States. So we went, the American Jewish Organization, the Hayas and the Joint, paid for their trip. I came to New Orleans. My father didn't want to go north. My father was always different. He doesn't follow crowds. He does his own thing. He wanted to go to the south. I wound up 1949 to New Orleans. And that itself is a beautiful experience. Let me see how much time I have. I have more time? Yes, I have 15 minutes, right? Okay, I'm doing okay time-wise. Should I stop here? I'm doing okay time-wise?
They want you to keep going.
Keep going. Okay. Tell me, because I can't see the time. Usually I have a time on the computer. I don't see why I lost the time. 1949, I couldn't go. I could go in 4th grade because they taught me enough there, but I couldn't speak a word of English because I was learning Hebrew, hoping to go to Israel, what we had already. But the last minute, my father changed because my mom had a sister there. My father had a brother. They talked us out from coming. They said, life is tough. You don't have a trade. What are you going to do? Go to the United States. You're entitled for an easier life. I was sorry all the years we didn't do it. Israel to me is a lifeline. Anyway, I was registered in first grade because I didn't know the language, but I was graduating within the year. I became from September to the end, the following June, I was able to graduate 8th grade. Everybody was so proud of me that they wanted me to give the graduating class a speech. I did. And what did I tell them? Nothing about me, because I realized these children are innocent. What do they know of such horrors? How can I even tell them anything like it? The best thing is to forget about it and go forward. And that's what most survivors did. And I told them to appreciate what they have in this country, the freedom that they have, the great country that you can do what you want and to enjoy it, to have a good life. And the speech was perfect for the time. I got married. My sister and I got married young. We left New Orleans, but my father and mother stayed on for many years till they retired. I came to New York, I got married. I have 2 children, both highly educated. I have 5 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. So I started volunteering when everybody was gone. I realized that it's my turn. My prediction, when my father said in 1944, he said, you will have to tell the world what happened. I guess I made it. I have to tell the world and tell also the world, but only with goodness, and with the whole world has to be part of it to be able to get rid of that anti-Semitism. Jews alone cannot do it. And we have to have an Israel. If we don't have an Israel, we will have a problem again. The world is anti-Semitism just as big as then. But I started volunteering in the museum as a docent. Then I started speaking, and I speak in schools. Every school you want me, I will go, because even if I have one child that learns something, to me is worth it. I will never forget this one child gets up and says to me, a high school kid, "Do you ever want revenge?" I says, "I have my revenge. I'm here to tell you. And I have Jewish children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren." And you know what she answered me in a letter? She says, "I never knew you can have revenge without killing." So I did teach something. And I'm hoping to teach all of you that you have to be kind to each other and not hate, because hatred is not going to lead you into the right place. Hatred would lead you to kill a person. Like, I am unable to kill a person because I don't hate anybody. I don't hate the Germans. I don't hate the Ukrainians. I don't hate the Poles. They are humans. First, and it's a second, but I'm trying to teach them, to tell them that anti-Semitism is going to lead you into bed. I know it. I need your help, young people. I need you to go to your parents. Tell them who you heard today. Think about it. All of you have to help for anti-Semitism to go away. I'll stop here. One more thing before I forget. We never forgot Stephanie and her children. My parents always corresponded. You know, we never called her by her name. We called her our savior, the priest, the queen for us. Called her our savior. She saved us. She saved 9 people. And look what I have. What a beautiful family I have. And my aunt and uncle, they went to Israel, and they have a family, children and grandchildren. It's all thanks to her. My parents never forgot her. They started sending her money whenever we were able, which was not till 1953 or so, because we came 1949 to the United States. We didn't have anything we could give her. But the first thing we had money, we asked her, "What do you want?" She said, "Material." Then my sister kept sending me. My sister was gone. I and my cousins from Israel, I said, "I want to see Khodorov, and I want to meet them again." Tajik unfortunately died young. We think it was the Chernobyl explosion that might have killed him. Stephanie was dead too. We have pictures of her, but she has a great granddaughter. That's the one I met. I am still sending money to her till today. She's my biggest charity giver. And whatever I give, I say it's never enough. I think I'll stop here. If I forgot something, maybe I'll be here next year again and I'll talk to you again. I'll give you some questions. I hope I left time. Go ahead. Anybody? No? If you don't have questions, I'm going to ask you. What's going on? You don't hear me? Do you hear me?
1 second, they're having some audio issues, but there are some students with questions.
Okay, I heard your voice. Good. That means it's working. I don't know if it's working or not. That's my problem.
We're gonna have a question here. This is Jared.
Can't hear a thing. Somebody has to take the question, tell it to me.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was just wondering, with being in the barn for so long, how did you, how were you able to cope with that?
My father was a very powerful, strong man and a very orthodox man. He believed that God is saving us to tell the world. He said, somebody has to survive. He would say, every day it's our miracle. He kept us quiet. He didn't sleep at night because he was afraid in case somebody dreams. He made, it's not easy to 9 people to sit 2 years, you're right. My uncle was more, I have enough, I'm getting out. He says, you're getting out? You're gonna kill us all. He says, my father was instrumental in keeping us quiet, teaching us. Somehow he succeeded. I'm gonna say what he said. I think it was God's will. That's the only excuse I have for that.
Thank you.
Can you hear us?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, perfect. We're gonna have some of the seniors present their artwork that they created. So thank you for coming and sharing your story today.
I'm losing, okay.
Hi, my name is Mildred, and I drew this art piece for you. Right here, I have your face because you're a beacon of hope.
Good, good.
And then around here, I have some arms for that.
Wow, great.
Endurance and strength, and then a barbed wire road because he broke through.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you. I love it, love it, love it. You know what? When I'm watching what's happening in Ukraine, my heart is bleeding. I can't take it. I can't take it. I don't watch it because I can't take it.
Hello, my name is Isaac Vega. I'm a senior here, of course, at WHSAD. So I wrote a poem for you. So we're gonna read it out for you. Ready?
Okay.
Without hope, we cannot prosper. We cannot cope with the tragedies of the past that cast us out from the world. It makes you feel as if your life has been thrown away, but hope gives us courage to stay and fight against all the horror. With hope, we are no longer broken. Our life has been rejuvenated, full of color, full of passion, with compassion of what our future holds. With hope, a part of our lives, we can come together like birds of a feather and face life head on. Thank you for teaching us that hope lifts us up no matter what.
Wow, you did it? Can you email it to me?
I will, yes.
Okay, oh my God, it's a perfect poem. You're great kids. You understood me. You heard me clear. I have to tell you okay, then another question. Go ahead.
Hello, my
Hi.
name is Giselle. I also wrote a poem. I'll just read it for you. So, hell is a place on earth, heaven too, and it exists in a glass of water. Heaven is in the ripples across the top, the rainbow that hides in the in-between and peeks out every once in a while to reflect a life lived long ago. It is the quench of a thirst, the feeling of life running down a dry throat after a 1,000-year drought. Heaven is the light on a window sill that warms the house. It grows each passing hour the sun outruns the night. Soon it will reach the glass and make it warm too. The glass was cold because they like cold water, but warm water feels like a sign from God. So although this glass is barren, I will drink it anyway. Although they carelessly knock it over, I will refill it. I will put it closer to the window sill so I can be blessed by God. I will learn to love it because they taught me hate.
Beautiful. Wow, what a class. What bright kids. What kind of class is this? Unbelievable. Never had anything like it. First time. Thank you. Thank you. Keep it up, guys. You have a future here. Trust me.
Thank
But
you.
don't
Yes, we have
hate.
2 questions now from some of the students. We're gonna ask 2 questions and then we'll end it, finish it up.
Okay. I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
So good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kevin Garcia. I'm a junior. And my question is, how did your religion and connection with God influence your view of the people who persecuted you?
I'm sorry. I'm losing you. I'm losing you.
How did your religion and connection with God influence your point of view of the people who persecuted you?
The religion, not so much that I'm religious, but I have a faith in me. And my father is religious, yes, he's Orthodox, he's Jewish Orthodox, not too, he's a very good humankind person. And he understood that with kindness, that's what he was teaching us, all of us. And yes, the religion can help. And you need a goal to want to make it. You need a light at the end. You need a goal. Only when you have a goal can you survive. You can't give in for 1 minute. The minute you give in, you're done. My father was standing powerful for 2 years, standing over us, powerful. He had a great belief that we'll make it. Unbelievable. He was an unbelievable man. Everybody who knows my father, my father died in 94, knows what kind of man he was. Thank you for asking that.
Hello, my name is Parker. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So my question is, have you ever spoken to anyone a part of the German military after the war?
Well, I went to Germany, every town, and I picture standing list. I made it. You did not succeed. I work in the museum, and the museum used to have once a year German cadets from Germany go to school, come to the museum to mingle with survivors. So when I mingled with them, I told them I thanked them for accepting their responsibility and teaching and making up what they did. I can't blame these children what their grandparents did. Yes, I was exposed with German children a lot. I answered your question, I hope.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. That was our last question. Thank you so much for being here and speaking to us. We very much appreciate it. Thank you.
That's it?
Yes, thank you.
I want you to all succeed. You're very bright children. Go home and discuss with your parents. And please, be good people. Be kind to each other. Then you won't hate you. If I don't hate you, then I can't hit you because I don't hate you. Be kind. That is one lesson I'm trying very hard to teach. Thank you for listening to me. Hope to see you another time. Good luck, whatever you go for. Succeed.